Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Digital Dada Podcast. I'm your host, Cecilia Maundu. I'm a broadcast journalist. I'm a digital security expert. I work at the intersection of technology, human rights, and journalism. And today we have an amazing guest who is a politician. And she's going to talk about her experience on the online platform and what are some of the things that we can do in terms of legal measures to be able to curb this issue of online violence. Karibu sana to the show.
Thank you very much, Cecilia. It's glad to be here. Yeah, thank you for having me. So my name is Catherine Irungu. I am an author. I am a community mobilizer. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a political leader. And I'm a practitioner when it comes to politics. I've been in politics for over a decade. I think it's now going to 15 years since I was a young woman. I mean, younger than I am now.
Age is
And
just a number.
yes, and I think I have learned a lot being in politics. And the experiences have been, some of them have been quite challenging. There some have been, what I would actually call just painful, and especially when it comes to technology-based, gender-based technology facilitated gender-based violence. And along the way, I'm also a mother of three beautiful children. Still intending to continue with politics because for me, I believe it's a calling. I'm not in it for money. I would actually say I started politics at the age of 24. Immediately I left university and I joined elective. First of all, I joined the national politics of the 2007, where we were campaigning for the former president Mwai Kibaki. And later on, after we promulgated the Constitution 2010, I saw an opportunity to go and run for the Nyeri County Woman Representative seat. I started my campaign in earnest, and eventually, for us politicians, we don't say we failed. We always say, kura hazikutosha.
Kura hazikutosha. I
Yes.
like that.
And then later after that, in the year 2017, I contested again for the Member of Parliament, Madeira constituency. That is my home, that is where I'm born, blend. That is where I schooled, and both of them were quite interesting. It was a learning experiencing. It was a learning experience. And it's just amazing how we keep learning. And I think politics is one of those things that you cannot learn in school. You can only learn as you do the game, as you participate in politics. It's not something you can go by the book. You can go by what is written. You can go by someone else's story. Your story will always be different. So when I joined politics, I was a student leader. So, and coming from a presidential secretariat, I thought I had what it took to campaign in the rural area. But then I discovered those are two different areas. Boardroom politics and politics on the ground are two different things. That's why you find that some of the best brains that you see even on media are never elected when it comes to election on the ground. It's because they are two different things. But then, of course, as we'll keep discussing with you, you will learn there are a couple of things, of course, happen. I really don't like blaming people. I don't like pointing fingers and saying, I was not elected because of so and so. No. I think our society, the way it's made up, and the way we are socialized in a manner where, one, we do not take women leaders seriously, and number two, the culture of money, especially during the party primaries, there's a lot of voter bribery, and there's a lot of rigging, there's a lot of, all those things that actually happen during the political processes are what hinders women from engaging in politics. But then I know you had asked me about technology facilitated gender-based violence.
But before we get into that,
yes,
you've given us a brief history of your political career. I want to know, like, when you were campaigning in 2007 for the former president, and now you went ahead and did it when you're as a woman rep.
Yes.
What role has technology played when it comes to this campaign?
Oh,
Because we remember 2007.
Actually, if you check, Cecilia, in 2007, there was no, we didn't have social media platforms, for example, and we were not relying a lot on tech. We were not relying a lot on our phones or even the laptops to do the campaigns. So I remember because that time we were doing this campaign as a team of vijana, or a team of young people. So basically what used to happen is you would gather people and speak to them. So right now we are more advantaged. From 2012 the campaigns changed totally. So when I was immersing myself in the Nyeri County politics, there was social media now. There was Facebook, and I actually had a Facebook account. You realize that people mashinani at the grassroots level, people don't use Twitter a lot, or what we call X.
It's true, yes.
So what is actually consumed there more is Facebook. So I had a Facebook account. And later on, after 2012, I think coming to 2017, then we got to the era of WhatsApp. So all this technology, I think, has made campaigns easier, because you can actually achieve name recognition and some visibility easily through social media, through technology. But then it also comes with its own disadvantages.
Yes, and that's why we are talking about tech-facilitated gender-based violence, or what is also termed as online violence. Can you tell us a particular experience that you went through when it comes to this kind of violence?
Cecilia, where do I start? I really don't know where to start, because you asked for one, and I think I have like 50. But I'll just give you one specific or two. First, I want to say this. Our politics, our culture, politically, is that of, you want to really do away with your opponent. You want to finish them, quote, quote. And finishing at times can include killing them. And this has happened many, many times. So even before we go to technology facilitated gender-based violence, let me first say that I've also suffered from physical violence. During my campaigns, sexual harassment and stuff like that. But then technology facilitated gender-based violence is pretty much different from these others, because one is that this person can hide behind the pseudos. They can use a name that is not their name. Even when you get hold of them, like maybe you're guessing it's Cecilia, or you're told it's actually Cecilia who is doing this, then the law is not clear on what should happen in such a case. And I'll give you an example. So there are a couple of things that I feel, or a couple of times when I feel like I was really attacked using technology. But the one that changed my life forever, and that is when I decided that I will also join you in this conversation, is where my family had to be discussed. When I joined politics, I was a young woman, and I didn't have children. I wasn't married. And throughout the journey, of course, a lot of things have happened, including having children. But then when I got my first child, the first thing that I saw online was, who is the father of this child? And within no time, then of course there was a list of potential fathers to my child. And it is so bad, because number one, this is something you can't erase. The child will keep growing, and some of the things that are on social media are things that will keep haunting you, and maybe the child will come across them. If the child knows the father, then the child will keep asking you, wait a minute, who is my father really? Because several names have been mentioned.
Yeah.
So the other one is, I think it's standard for us women in politics to be called prostitutes. So,
and the sad part is it has been normalized.
It is so normalized. And by the way, it is not just on socials. Even when I've been campaigning, they're out there. If someone wants to insult me and they want me to feel really bad, they just call you malaya, or they just call you a prostitute. And it's a way of, making you feel really bad, and also to create a picture that is not you, so that now people will start asking, does this person really fit the bill? We want this person to lead us, So for me, I think those are some of the things that I've accepted today, that it really does not bother me if you call me a prostitute. It's a standard for women in politics, by the way. Ask all the women you know in politics, they will tell you at one point or at one time or another, they were called a prostitute. So it's not really a big deal. But when it happens to you at a tender age, and before you get proper foundation, it can be very detrimental.
It can.
I remember I used to lock myself in a toilet and cry, and then come out looking very strong, untouchable, strong as possible. And therefore, some of those things pretty much affected how I related with people. Because you'll meet with people who think, oh, she's this and this. But then you, as a politician, you have to learn to live with it, because that's how our society is.
But you see now, when you say as a politician, you have to live with it, aren't we also
normalizing?
Yeah, and the next crop of
let me tell you, Cecilia, I know you're doing a good job here to highlight some of these things. Truth be told, the sponsors of the bloggers are always sponsored. In a political process, bloggers will be sponsored. And they are normally sponsored by opponents to tarnish someone's name. For me, I've never done it for any of my opponents. Maybe because I know that it hurt so bad, because it happened to me at some point. But I've also had women whom I contested against sponsoring bloggers to do that. I've had men sponsoring bloggers to do that. So you understand?
Yes.
So really, for me, it to me, it looks like a very deep-rooted issue. It's because of the way we run politics. And unless we change our political culture, then these issues will keep emerging. So we could be here seated and saying that we condemn this. But until we change, some of these things are really deep-rooted, by the way. Because ask yourself, why should another woman call you a prostitute just because you're contesting against each other? I don't think it's right. Because we keep, when we are all together as women, seated in meetings, during conferences and workshops, we say power and more power to women, and we seem to support each other. But when we go to our separate way, we just behave like men, because politics is a very competitive affair. So I think what needs to happen is really not normalize. And then for some of us, we're not normalizing, but we've been insulted until it doesn't hurt anymore. But then I can imagine for a young woman like when I joined politics in her 20s, going through that, it's really tough. And I wouldn't really wish someone else to go through the same. So what we need to do is to have measures that will ensure that when people do these things, legislation, policies, we change. And then we can even have a hotline, where if we have flagged something on socials, then we can call a certain number, and either they can be deleted or they can be brought down. I don't know how that one works. I'm not a tech person. But the other thing that happens in politics, I lost about 4 years ago. I lost all my accounts, including all interviews that I had done, including my Facebook, my Twitter, my name it. And in politics, there's a saying that goes that everybody has a price.
Yeah, especially in
I'm
this
sure
country.
you've heard that.
Yeah.
So I had these, let me say, technical assistant who was handling all that for me. But one time he was bought by my opponents, and he deleted everything. And in fact, the first thing I noticed was that my Facebook account had been hacked. So I tried to recover it from my phone because I got an alert. But it was simply not possible. So up to now, I've never been able to do that. And then it is so difficult even when you're hacked. When your account is hacked, it is so difficult for Facebook to intervene. I don't know why. Because I kept writing to them, and then they could say, take a shot, take a screenshot of send us your photo, send us your forehead, send us this. How sure are we it's your account? It was so tedious.
So much, yeah.
And
That's the complaint
eventually,
we've had a lot.
exactly. And eventually I just lost the pages. So when it comes to legislation, I actually want to believe that if our members of parliament wanted to change the way things are, they can. But majority of them are beneficiaries of this kind of tech facilitated gender-based violence.
But now,
so as long as they can pay the bloggers to keep saying those nasty things that they say about their opponent, they're okay. So I think that is why they're not doing anything.
And there's a time I interviewed a female journalist from one of these vernacular station. One of the things she was telling me, like, most of that violence is just facilitated by these big people in the counties. Some of them hold high positions in the county because they are not happy with the information that you're giving to the public. You understand? So they're the ones who are sponsoring the so-called bloggers to be able to harass you online. And it is very, very sad.
That is true.
And circling back to your point on legislative, what are some of the changes that you believe are necessary at the legislative level to prevent this kind of violence, that is tech-facilitated gender-based violence? And how can these laws be more effective? Because I'm coming from the place of, if we don't take care of this, we are going to have fewer and fewer women getting into politics. Not everyone is like Catherine who decides this is something that I want, regardless. Because research has shown that so many women are shying away from politics, especially young
and
women.
families are getting destroyed,
Exactly.
by the way. Because you can imagine for a husband who sees stories about their wife, and now they have to second guess them. And then whether they are faithful or not, such things. At times, and I'm sure you've also seen, an example was Mheshimiwa Resho Shebesh, and there was a photo shoot, a Photoshop of her, and in some funny situation.
Yeah.
You've also seen something to do with Millicent Omanga. All these things are actually destructive to the family fabric. So really, we need to do something. But now, I think the legislation I'm talking about should address issues like the following. One of the times when I went to report, I actually reported to a police station, and I went with the post. It was a nasty one. And I went with the post and I said, look, and I know this person A, B, C. That one had not hidden her number, her name. Her name is Martha. So
it was a real account.
Yes, it was a real account of a lady called Martha. So I said, look, it is this girl. It is this girl. So can you do something about this? Can you even summon her to the station? This is so destructive to my political career and to my campaigns. Can she come and, bring it down or something? I didn't even want anything more. And the police, the OCS of the station said, there's nothing we can do. We really don't know how we can go about this. This sounds like a personal issue. Why don't you call her and talk to her? You see, by the time someone is tarnishing your name online, even if you call them, they're not going to answer you.
It's true.
They're not going to answer you. So one is actually to have laws that really prescribe what should happen to offenders. Because if it is not clear what should happen to an offender, the offender will keep hiding under a pseudo, or just because you don't know them. There's another young man who is a bit notorious. I think his name is Cyprian. I even tried to look for him. He posted something about me on social media, which was a lie, really. And I said, can I meet with you? Because I would like you to bring down this thing. In fact, I had been told, what you need to do, Kathy, just give him like 20,000. He's going to bring this down. And I was ready to give him the money so that he brings that post down. And eventually, after working very hard trying to meet with him, it was not possible. But I also learned that it is a way of extorting money from politicians. So the legislation should be around that. Registration should be around that. The offenders. What are we doing about this? Is it possible to bring them to book? Because it's an offense, just like any other.
It is true.
And it can be very traumatizing,
we talk about a lot about facilitated gender-based violence. And believe you me, Catherine, there is no difference between tech and offline. Actually,
Oh,
online
tech
is
is worse.
yes, actually, because let me tell you something. You talked about that information being online. Y- The internet never forget. I
Mhm,
mean,
mhm,
it's an overrated cliche, but it's the truth.
mhm,
Your children will grow up one day, and that information might flash in
mhm,
front of their eyes.
mhm,
You're a politician. One day we will see you in parliament.
mm,
All this information will be
mm,
there.
mm,
So it is the same thing. And unfortunately, the society is yet
mm,
to accept that this is this kind of violence.
mm,
And now it brings me to my next question.
mm,
How are you able to support not only yourself
mhm,
and even protect your children
mhm.
when you are going through this kind of violence?
Okay, luckily my children are not on social media,
Mhm,
so they have not seen some of this thing yet.
mhm.
They are yet to see, but I believe they might at some point, in
Yes.
future, come
Mhm,
across some of that data.
mhm,
But one of the ways of actually protecting the children is just to ensure that they don't learn early.
mhm.
I think it's better when they learn it at the right time.
Time.
Because if you start telling them that, people are like this, you now open another conversation
Mm.
that is more complicated than, and you can imagine, Cecilia, nowadays media is awash with all manner of what I would say horrific,
Mhm,
you know. I don't know whether we that's all we can report about our country.
mm.
But you'll hear there's a girl who was killed yesterday, there's a man who was
Yeah.
killed, there's a human head that has been seen somewhere. It is just traumatizing. So you can imagine for kids, it has reached a point where I don't even watch news myself.
Mhm,
And why I don't watch news in the house is because I don't want to expose my children to that.
mhm.
Because at times the children wonder, what kind of a country is this?
What kind of society are we living in?
Exactly.
Mhm,
So I think one of the ways is actually to ensure that they don't get to see
mhm,
some of this
mhm,
stuff.
mhm.
And when they run about it and when the time is right, then you discuss with them openly.
Really.
By that time, they will be mature. They can understand,
Mhm.
quite a lot about these things. Yeah.
So, apart from the children, how are you able to support yourself during that ordeal? Because I mean, it was something. Oh my good, Catherine, it was something very big.
I remember my
Mm,
friend, a
mm,
good friend of mine called Wanja.
mm,
When she saw there's a senior politician
mm,
who had sponsored some policemen to arrest me
mm,
along Kilimani,
mm,
Kileleshwa Road
mm,
somewhere.
mm,
And I told the policemen off. I
mm,
told them, you know what, you're not arresting me just because you've been sent by a politician, and
mm,
please stop harassing me.
mm.
So it blew it into something else,
Yes, it was
and the
trending.
video went really
Viral.
viral.
Yes.
So before I could see, so many of my friends had seen,
Mhm,
and they called me. Wanjat said, Kathy, where are you? I said, I'm on my way to work.
mm,
She said, you know what? I'm sending you a number, and this is a psychologist, and you need to see her now.
mhm,
Now, that was her way of protecting a friend.
mhm,
So I asked her why. She said, that video went viral, and please, you're being trolled. But one of the things I don't do myself, if I pick, initially I used to respond, I used to read, I used to engage. Nowadays, insult me all you can, I'll not respond to you.
And that one is the mechanisms that
I
we
don't
advocate for.
exactly. I don't open the
Mm,
comment section.
mhm.
I don't even watch. I don't even read. Once I know it's something negative, it's a way of protecting myself. It's a way of just protecting my peace. It's self-care. Because how does it benefit me to keep reading what this person said and the other person said and even responding? And the more you justify, the more it looks believable. So I think it's, for me, my way of dealing with it is actually keeping off.
Yeah, because I remember one time we were in a meeting by Amwick,
Mhm.
that is Association of Media Women in Kenya,
Yes.
and they had invited Honorable Martha Karua.
Mhm.
And one of the things she said, some people are just looking for attention from your page.
Mm.
The minute you
Mm.
respond to him and to him or her, and Kenyans are so strange.
Mm.
The minute you respond, this person had maybe 100 followers,
Mm.
they have 10,000.
Oh yeah.
Yes. So
Yeah.
sometimes ignoring is also a
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
a very good
But I will also
mechanism.
tell you something else. And this is where now our leaders and leadership would mean something to this country.
Mhm.
Have you ever asked yourself why all this blogging? Have you ever asked yourself why the bile? Have you
Mm.
ever asked yourself? In 2008, 2009, when social media started, and I mean, Facebook, I think that's when we got Facebook in Kenya, is it?
Yeah, 2008.
2008.
Yes, yes.
and I got my first account. It was just like you're adding friends, you're connecting with your former classmates and stuff like that. Then when I got into politics, now it became really chaotic because you're out there, you're in the limelight. And there's something I picked then, and it still stands true. Most of the bloggers, most of the people who do blogging are one, educated, are two, jobless, three, they have a smartphone and they have data. Majority of these people, why politicians use them, is because they don't have any other employment. So a politician will come and say, John, I want you to tarnish the name of Kathy, or I want you to destroy her candidature. Then John picks this as a job. I don't know whether you have heard of the 527. I don't know whether you have ever heard of that.
Of course.
And the 527 meant that every day you're sending bloggers 527 shillings every day. So it's a means of earning a livelihood. It's a means of survival. That way that person is able to feed their family and all that. I'll tell you something else. So first, let's agree that we are failing because in a busy society where people are quite busy, we would not be having all this. Number two, politicians actually reward bloggers. Yes, I can give you a million examples.
So now,
but since we are not here to mention names,
yeah,
I'll tell you in my constituency, when I ran for the Madeira parliamentary seat, there's a lady who was just tasked to tarnish my name.
That was her job.
That was her job. She ended up in fact, eventually she got a job in a very, very big office in this country. When the candidate, the candidate was using her, later became a deputy president. So this blogger was carried along and she continued, doing the same kind of now work for people now at the level of that gentleman. Now, what happens, because this is also a very dangerous affair that politicians engage in. Cecilia, today you'll pay me to tarnish the name of John. One day, I might decide to turn against you. And that is what is happening in this country. Every electioneering year will have bloggers, like bloggers say, say, for example, Raila Odinga is this, Martha Karua is this, because they're supporting the other side. The same bloggers, because bloggers are expensive. If you do not meet their demands, the same ones will turn against you. In fact, part of the bashing that I'm seeing online nowadays, targeting the government, when I check and see the people who are actually writing those things, they're people who supported the government in 2022.
So it's like they've turned.
It's a means of surviving. They're earning from it, and it also speaks a lot to how we do politics in this country. Is the same. I mean, Cecilia, if you go to the ground, if I go to Machakos, if you come to Madeira, where I come from, if you go to Narok, if you go to Kajiado, we let's first agree that siasa yetu ni ya kumalizana. So that's how we play our politics, all right? Even our senior most leaders at that very high level, that's how they do politics. That's why they can call each other names. That's why the one who will say huyu ni mchawi, mwingine aseme huyu ni mwenda wazimu, that kind of thing. So it's the same. That is what is being reflected on social media.
Yeah.
It's not different. Don't even struggle. It's the way we do our politics.
So the problem is how the politics is done. And so, what
and
role?
by the way, Cecilia, before I forget, you see, I have told you that there's a time I went to report an incident and nothing was done. Can I tell you, when a male candidate, my opponent, went to report the same individual, she was arrested and put in Kingongo prison.
Oh my God, the patriarchy.
So that's how we need to really understand socio-cultural issues around us and how we live, how we treat women, how we look at family, how we look at politics, and then now relate that with what is happening on social media.
And what role then can these tech companies play to combat this kind of
I
violence?
honestly think the other day I had the president say that he's inviting them to open offices in Kenya. I do not know whether that happened. I just saw him make that comment on TV. I think that would be a good starting point. That would be a good starting point. So that, and you remember I told you that when I tried to reach Facebook, it was a lot of back and forth, and I couldn't even know, I couldn't tell who was dealing with me. But if they are here, then it's easier. That's one of the ways, of doing this. Then I think the other thing is to keep flagging these messages. If you see a content, and I think they are doing that nowadays, that's what I hear. If you see some content that is not right, I mean, they should be bringing it down all the time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And since this issue of tech facilitated gender violence is also a global issue, do you think international cooperation is necessary to tackle this problem, and what should it look like? Because you remember, I think it's New Zealand where they had a female, is it prime minister? I'm not, I can't remember very well. And when she stepped down, these are some of the things she's talked about. These things can actually push you to the wall.
Let me tell you. Technology facilitated gender-based violence affects more women than men. It will affect a woman differently, and it will affect a man differently. So one of the things that needs to happen is, as you said, some global cooperation. I mean, it's not a matter of, it's not an African problem. It's not a Kenyan problem. It's not even a women problem. It's a global problem, and we can all be victim of the same. So what needs to happen really is to have even treaties, have a common approach, have a common agenda in dealing with technology facilitated gender-based violence. Yes.
So, Catherine, when your video was going viral, I remember watching that video. That time I'd never even met you. I remember watching that video and I was like, oh my goodness, this is a strong woman.
Yeah.
This is a woman who will not take it lying down.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for young women who are coming up in politics? Because, Catherine, in 10 years, we need more women in politics.
Yeah.
So what advice do you have for them? Because we know very soon, not even soon, we are living in that era where campaigns will just be.
The campaigns have already
online.
started.
One of the reasons why you lost your Facebook account is because your opponent or somebody saw this is a very powerful platform and it is giving her a lot of mileage.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
So that says a lot about this tech that we have. And we know in years to come, it will be even, Kenya is a technology country.
I think, Cecilia, one of the things I've seen with the younger women is that they are more daring. I think maybe they have learned from us and even the other older women. I think they are bold. They are dealing with things better than we did. I don't think they would go to the toilet, lock themselves and cry. There's a lot of information
But then you
out
would be
there.
surprised. Sometimes they do. They do, because some have interviewed them. They tell you they cry, and then when they come out, they're so strong. It's like, oh, there's nothing you can do to me. Yes.
But look, you see, if you go by what I saw the Gen Zs do, come out on the streets, and the leadership of that group was actually majorly women. I think we are dealing with very bold generation of, both male and female. But mine, to answer your question more directly, is actually to encourage them and tell them that other women before them have gone through this and still emerged stronger and got out of this. The fact that there's gender-based violence, whether it is technology facilitated, physical or sexual, whatever, that should not hinder someone from coming out. If I knew what I know now, I would have been better prepared. For example, they need to prepare. We went into this when tech was new, even social media platforms were new, but they are coming on board at a time when there's a lot of information on even how you can safeguard your accounts. We are also telling them how we have dealt with it so they can learn something from us. So for us, we were starting from a point of no information. They're starting from a point of information, and they have support. They have so many people to support them, like yourself and others, who can advise them on how even to keep safe within that space. Yeah.
As we come to the tail end of this conversation, I also want to talk about the issue of when you go to report, because one of the things they're saying is women are not reporting this kind of violence. So we don't have enough data to inform policies, you know. So what are some of the things that can be done to educate the police force on this issue? I know an organization like Kiktanet, which is Kenya ICT Action Network, has been doing a lot of advocacy work when it comes to the issue of police informing them and educating them. But what's some of the things, because you said you went there and you didn't get any help. Would you even want to go back after what you went through?
No.
Yes.
I wouldn't even try.
Yes.
Let me first tell you something. And with all due respect to our police forces, because I know they do a lot of work protecting this country and our borders. But the police, whenever someone has an advantage, and in this case it's power, the police most of the time will be used by the powerful individuals to suppress the upcoming or the not so powerful individuals. And this we have seen all the time. We are just talking about the deaths of our Gen Zs, and everybody seems to point fingers at the police. I can tell you, even when my elections were rigged during the primaries in Madeira, it is the police who were used. I was even arrested and put in for like 2 hours. My driver was arrested at some point. So it's really the police force that we have in Kenya, in as much as we call them the disciplined forces, they really need to get disciplined, because I believe they also know the right thing, but they don't want to do it. Why? Haven't you heard people say, I arrested that one, and when they got here, nikapigia mkubwa. Who is this mkubwa they keep referring to? That they have to consult someone else to know what to do with someone they have arrested or abducted, for that matter. So it's even the police, the culture within the police force is rotten. That is why there's corruption. You know, you can imagine, we talk of the police men and women receiving bribes along the way, even for traffic offenses, isn't it?
Yes.
So you can imagine where they are now given more money to defend an offender who is just insulting an opponent. So the police force needs to get really disciplined. I don't think it's an issue of women are not reporting. From what I saw on that day at the Nyeri Central Police Station, I can tell you what lacks is the goodwill. Maybe they're just looking at this case and wondering, how does it benefit them?
And then that is so
it's
sad.
Like the other gender-based violences that we keep talking about. Do you know, in each and every police station, when the women reps were elected in the first crop of women reps in 2013, we introduced gender desks. Each and every police station has a gender desk. Have you gone to a police station and found that gender desk functioning? How come that even after establishing the gender desks in the police stations, this is when we are even experiencing more violence on women, including femicide? So I think, one, we might need to build their capacity, as you're saying, that there's an organization doing that. Yes, that is important. And I always say that there's certain things that the BBI had proposed. I think I just love it for some reason. And the Building Bridges initiative had proposed that we need to look at our fabric as a people. Maadili, you know. And it is time that Kenyans start having a national conversation about certain things that really ail us. Like, why, do you know some of the things that I've seen on social media, attack on other women, especially women in media like yourself? You ask yourself, where did you get all this information about this woman? What are these issues that you're talking about a certain woman who is in the media, and apart from just seeing that woman in the media, you really do not know her? In fact, one time I was telling someone in my campaign team, when you read some of the comments on social media, you feel like there are some people who sleep under your bed.
They know you better than you know yourself.
They know you better than you know yourself.
Yes.
The things they will say in the morning when you wake up, you're like, what? You're saying I'm in Kisumu. You're saying I've been seen in the US, but I'm in Kenya. Someone will say, she's been spotted, and that time maybe you're even in class. So it really speaks to who we are as a people. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Catherine. Would you, is there something that you feel that you've left out that you would want to talk about?
Uh, yes. I think it is very important that we safeguard the future of this country. And one of the ways of protecting the future of this country is ensuring that we are not feeding garbage on our children. We always say garbage in, garbage out. So, I call upon the leadership of this country, both women and men. I call upon the non-governmental organizations, state agencies, and everybody else, because if we do not do something now, our children, the ones who are growing up, and the ones who are even going to come after them, we have normalized something that is so dangerous. Lastly, let's be responsible on how we use social media, because we have to be responsible and at the same time intentional. We are releasing too much information about our country out there. Like when Raila Odinga was contesting for the AU chairmanship, we said so many bad things about him. We have also said so many bad things about our president and about our country. We've even shown the map of State House and how it looks like, and it is on social media. That is endangering our country. We are endangering ourselves. Let's manage what we post on social media. I think there's too much freedom on what we can share on social media. Thank you.
I would encourage the issue of healthy conversation online, responsible behavior on the social media platform. As we say, the social media is a very powerful tool, but at the same time, it can be very dangerous, especially when you look at it from the angle of online gender-based violence. And the most, the victims of online gender-based violence are women politicians like yourself, women journalists, women who have voices online. And it brings back to the patriarchy, because the agenda is one, to silence their voices. And it is also women like you who know that you cannot be silenced. So they better know that it is time for, your voices have to be heard. So thank you so much for making time for this for the show. And we are hoping that 2027, when we play this clip, you will be somewhere there and you will be talking about legislation.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Asante.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And looking forward to seeing you in the next show. Bye-bye.